So I think a couple of you have brought home that tool. If you brought home your tools, I think it looks like this. If not, it's the smaller one, and it'll do the same thing. And this is a good spot to show you how that might work. It would be something like this, where you drag across the surface to round off those convexities. I'm not going to go forward with that because I know some of you do not have your tools. So I'm going to continue to just build that form like this. The tricky part here is this overlap. And many of your leaves that you might find are going to have this detail. So it's very much about an overlap. Now what I don't want to do is build this. This is this is quite deep. But if you look at my relief, and I'll show you some images of that, you'll see that it's very flat. And that's important for relief for a variety of reasons and purposes. And one of those purposes is architectural. So what I'm doing is folding that leaf over. I'm bringing that line, the line is here, but the form falls underneath it, right? So I'm using 2 fingers and pushing that clay underneath to get this form. And in some cases it actually pulls back again. And you'll notice that there's a lot of weaving and waving all through here. I haven't gotten to that yet, and I can go through, but for now I'm just trying to get a general line, and I'll get some more detail in there later. So I want to make sure that this form, as you can see deep down in here, there's an overlap. So I can draw the line and then kind of push the clay up to it. It's a very effective technique. So now I can start going through. I like the way I've laid it out. So now I can go through and start going to the minor forms. And the minor forms, some people call them details, but the details implies that they are less important in some ways than the major. But I like to use major and minor. So again, when I see a little leaf overlapping in there, then it's coming up, and then weaves back, so you can see this kind of riffling. Now I chose this leaf because I felt like it was less complex than the other ones, but like everything in the world, the more you really look at it, the more complex it really is, and especially in nature. No matter how hard you try, you're never going to really see the end of it. It will always be more complex than you've originally assumed. So you can see how, sculpting is a two-handed thing. You're using both fingers to tend to pinch your way into it. You see how I'm pinching to that one line? Or shaping. Sometimes you have to stabilize with one finger and push in the other. So it's very much a two-handed thing. Sometimes you got to get it in from this direction, sometimes that direction. So this, I'm observing the way this rolls back over and then comes in. So what I want to do is build a ridge along here to catch more light on the outside of it and then catch shadow on the inside. So I have to build a ridge through here. I think up to there is about right. And then I can push it. And then it comes over. And then, of course, in through here, there's some detail right in there that I'd like to include. I'm going to press down. I guess it's more back here. Let's go like this. Push it back over this way. Then down, in, out, back down, around. That's pretty close. It's close enough to fix it later, right? We always start with doing something wrong and then make it less wrong. And that's the general process of critical thinking. You say something, just because somebody asserts something doesn't mean that they are not working on the idea, essentially. So you make an assertion, you make an argument, and then you fix it up later. You admit you're wrong. And now I come back up here. I haven't spent too much time thinking about the veins and everything. I've just really thought about how it's undulating. Those veins are minor forms that I might be able to draw in later in a delicate way, but they have to be thought of right now as minor form. Because I want to get if I start drawing those veins on there first, I'm going to not be able to compose all the major light and shade systems of the leaf. So you saw me draw them in just to get a sense of where they are, but now they're completely obliterated because of the way I'm modeling the surface. Then later on they can be drawn in. Think of these as little streams in a mountainous form. These are mountains. You start out with the mountains and then draw in the streams. I'm going to build it up over here a little bit. I want it to come a little bit higher off of the surface. Just a little bit higher. And I want to feel like this is flipping over and then creating this ridge along here. So it's flipping over right here and then creates the ridge along this way. Sometimes when people are trying to get a general view of something when they're drawing, they'll use the trick of blurring your eyes. If you blur your eyes, you'll see a much simpler light structure. And that sometimes can help you to see past the detail. You can see past the minor forms to see it more generally. I think I changed that when I touched it, but I clearly got it wrong. So let me alter that. It's much more like this. I think that's getting there. It's getting there. I think it'll go better when I have less mess down in here. It seems to be moving. But that's okay. One of the differentiations between traditional art and, let's say, photography is that photography is a moment in time, and painting and sculpture in a traditional way is almost always a time frame, a longer time frame. So it could be 20 minutes while I'm modeling this, or it could be hours and years and centuries. A little ridge line there that I'd like to create. So as I'm talking, you're seeing the way the light is sweeping across, and I'm using that to my advantage to create shadows and highlights. So you're not just working with the way the light is hitting it, but also how it's creating a shadow. You're doing both, pushing and pulling. So if I put my finger there, you'll see that there's a dark shadow and then a light. So it's creating a rim of light right through there. Do I like that? I'm not sure yet. So I'm going to start putting in some sharper lines. But again, that is really a very tentative thing in order for me to start building a certain structure into the leaf. I'm going to bring this over a little bit more, make that a little bit bigger. I do think that, okay, and then it kind of goes up on me, and then down. And a sharp line underneath it. Okay, so now that I have the major forms, I could go back in and draw in some of those veins. And really, in this case, the veins aren't anything other than sharp transitions between the forms. So, kind of experimenting with tools here. And here it is finished, or close to. I did a little fussing with it after I shut off the camera, and I just wanted to show you how to finish it up. I'll pan around to show you how deep it is, how shallow really it is. Hopefully that's clear. I can also twist it around so that the light changes, so that maybe that would be helpful to see it. I could spend a lot more time fussing with it, like I said. In some ways, that's important. A lot of ways, that's important. So, there you go. Have fun.